We're here meeting today because of the fact that we are currently undergoing a tremendous shift in our economy and the future of work. If you've watching the news, you've all heard about the fact that robots are coming to take our jobs. For those of you who happen to work in the auto industry, certain kinds of manufacturing, the express lanes at retail and so on, robots have already come to take the jobs. Automation is real. It is a huge, huge factor. It is not just a factor here. It is a factor in the Central Valley where automated water systems, automated collection systems are now more a rule than an exception. And the push for water and workforce efficiency is permeated there, and agriculture all over the place. It's permeated numerous different factors in our lives. And the fact is that, we look at the evolving future workforce and we think about ourselves here in California, and we are at the cutting edge. We are the state that in many ways sets the trends not only for the United States, but for the world. I just happened to have been in China for the last couple of weeks, and they have the ironic advantage or disadvantage of having a rapidly aging population and future potential workforce issues. So automation kind of fits in nicely, but huge population there is scared. They're scared about their futures. They're scared about where the jobs are going. They're not only competing with machines, they're competing with tariffs and lower cost alternatives in Vietnam and Bangladesh and elsewhere. Population in Hong Kong is stuck with the fact that much like Californians, they are in an incredibly overpriced city with a shortage of available and affordable housing and a lack of jobs that they're trained for. Sounds familiar. And that is something that we're really worrying about. Will we be forced to shift to a universal basic income model with limited capacity for growth or mobility? And in many ways, it is that mobility, it is that ability to get trained for a job that guarantees that the workforce of the future is in the middle class, that they are able to have opportunity to move up. We have seen economic mobility decline in this country over the last 30 years. In a lot of cases, this has happened as we shifted away from the heavier manufacturing jobs that were the main pathway into the middle class for many people who came out of World War II. That was their ticket. That was their way up. You didn't need a lot of schooling. You didn't need a lot of advanced skills. But now we're talking today about the fact that in the middle of job displacement anxiety, in the midst of getting ready and dealing with the issues of work, is that we need to think about what is the 21st century workforce. We need to think about what's involved, what factors are necessary. We have an amazing innovation economy here in California, and the catch is, though, is that unless we establish partnerships between industry, government, public universities, private universities, the high schools, all the way along society, along the chain, people will get left behind. We already have issues right now where the Bay Area is suffering from cost inflation from the fact that they don't have enough skilled workers being trained locally, so they overpay to move people in from other parts of the country, and those people who get paid more and get housing allowances or moving allowances to come in then overpay for housing in Silicon Valley and the Bay Area. We deal with the fact that even in LA, look at the distortion in terms of what the prices are in housing, where the high-paying job centers are. If you say Silicon Beach to some people, they're like, wow, cool, this is amazing, jobs of the future. Other people say, great, this is why I can't buy a house in Inglewood anymore. And it is essential for us to train people to be able to not only have nimble upskilling, people who are already in the workforce, getting them ready for what the next jobs are, looking at the future of work, looking at where the continuum of workforce needs, realizing that they are not necessarily the jobs that were there many years ago, but that in many cases, many of the jobs that do have a future aren't necessarily getting the training because people have forgotten about them or the connections aren't there, and we will talk about that. We want to reaffirm the California dream for a new generation that provides increased access to the technical and soft skills that are necessary throughout an evolving workforce landscape. Today, you're going to hear about a new workforce dynamic that's already taking shape in the state and beyond. We are going to talk about how we can leverage strategic investments in technology and collaboration among industry and education providers throughout the talent pipeline. And that, as I said, that's all the way up. In many cases, we have to start kids early. We have to teach them about what those possibilities are and that those possibilities actually exist. We need to tell people when they're in college, it's great if you're here. We're glad that you made it to college. We're glad that you're getting a degree, but you need to, part of the job isn't done when you get the degree. It's the job. We need to place you in the workforce. We need to be able to connect you to real opportunities of employment. If you're in your 50s and you're working in a job that is suddenly no longer there, we need to be able to tell you, you have a great background, you have great skills, and you may well be working for 15, 20 more years. We need to connect you and your amazing resume and your skill set to a new job. We need to make that connection. We need to make it possible. And we need to make sure that employers realize that some of the most talented people who are here in our workforce are people who they're not thinking about because they're not realizing that in an economy where everybody shifts jobs every 5 years, that somebody who you have to do relatively limited minimal retraining on and already has the work ethic and the understanding and the ability and the soft skills you need is there. We need to think about the fact that when we're going ahead and we're talking about these different kinds of collaboration and different kinds of skills, that we're ready for the 21st century, and that the 21st century, we're in 2018, so think about the fact that we've still got 82 years left in this century, and that we need to be ready for as much of it as we can. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. We are not just talking about problems, we're trying to talk about solutions. And we're thrilled that all of you are here. We want you to contribute. We'll be doing Q&A after multiple different sessions. We want you to talk when there are breaks, and we want to continue this conversation afterwards. So right now, to help me out, and is that, as I said, once again, I want to make a point of thanking Working Nation, the LAEDC Center for Competitive Workforce, and especially I want to thank the next person who's going to be coming up, Dianne Humphrey, who's here from our main sponsor, JP Chase, and she is the VP and LA Program Officer for Global Philanthropy, and she will fill you in on all the details that I have missed. So thank you.
Thank you. Or not. I'm not going to get too detailed this morning. I'm going to make my remarks quick because I'm really excited to hear the rest of the day and see how much we can figure out in the next 2 hours and 45 minutes or something like that. But thank you, Kevin. As Kevin mentioned, I'm Dianne Humphrey. I'm here to represent JP Chase and the foundation. Our foundation is primarily focused on helping people move up the economic ladder. So our efforts are organized around what we understand, based on our experience, to be fundamental pillars of economic opportunity: financial health, neighborhood revitalization, small business expansion, and preparing people with the skills that they need for jobs of today and tomorrow, which is mostly what we're going to be talking about. So with this lens, we've partnered with the Milken Institutes to support the Future of Work project. We are interested to understand this not only for the implications for human capital at our own firm, but for the economy overall, and for how the workforce system needs to adapt over time. And particularly, we're looking at that with a lens of those most at risk of being left behind as these changes happen. I also want to acknowledge that at this moment, we're in the midst of a challenging time for our state with the devastating fires that we've been experiencing across California. I was just up in San Francisco for the last few days, and for any of you that are from there or have been there this week, the air quality is the worst I've ever seen, and it's getting worse, actually. So in times like this, our firm also steps up to help employees, customers, and communities who are affected. On Wednesday, JP Morgan Chase announced $1 million in contributions to 3 nonprofits in the fire-affected areas. The North Valley Community Foundation, it's pretty awesome, right? I'm really happy to say that we can do this. The North Valley Community Foundation will receive $750,000 to aid in campfire relief. And the Ventura County Community Foundation and the United Way of Greater Los Angeles' Disaster Relief Fund will each receive $125,000. The firm is also hosting a Facebook campaign under the Chase handle to raise money for the American Red Cross. And JP Morgan employees are able to join us in this effort, with the firm matching all donations made by employees to any of these organizations. Of course, we welcome you to join us too, if you so choose. In addition, we're automatically waiving or refunding certain fees, including late and overdraft fees, for consumer customers in Butte and Ventura counties and the affected areas of Los Angeles County. In addition, we're working individually with customers in need. So we all need to do our part to create resilient communities, a strong economy, and a thriving California. Thank you for attending today and being an important part of this conversation, focus on the future of work for our communities. So to start off the day, I'm going to introduce the panel, or I should say the moderator of the panel, Jane Oates, who's the president of Working Nation. And have the panel come and take a seat. They'll introduce themselves as the panel gets started in just a few more minutes. But first, I'd like to have you join me in welcoming Jessica Koo Kim, who is going to be making the first presentation on how the LA Basin is responding to the future of work. Jessica is the Workforce Development Director with LAEDC. Good morning, Jessica. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. The future of work is a very exciting topic for our workforce and education community here in the Los Angeles Basin. As many of you know, our workforce system here is quite complex and quite large. For those of you that I'm blocking, we have 21 community colleges in our region, over 75 colleges and universities, 7 workforce development boards, some states only have 1, with over 40 America's Job Centers. We have over 100 adult education providers, 81 K-12 school districts, and many others, including our unions, our private institutions, and our community-based organizations. And with our funding streams, especially under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, our strong workforce dollars that are coming down through the state, through our community colleges, and now also focusing on K-12, we're being asked to engage industry. So imagine being an employer like Northrop Grumman, to be asked to engage at the K-12, the community colleges, the workforce development boards, be a part of my curriculum advisory board, be a part of our workforce development board. It's quite a lot. And when we think about industry then, as they identify skills gaps, and they want to tap into the talent supply that this system is producing, where do you go? Who do you talk to? It's quite complex, let alone to find that right champion that will deliver on the skills that you need. And so it's quite daunting for an industry, but we are making moves as an industry. And so in the Los Angeles Basin region, LAEDC is partnering with our community colleges, our workforce development boards, and soon our California State University system to understand the labor market information. So to take a look at the supply and the demand, to provide the analysis, to dig deeper about the populations that they are serving, to understand what are those middle skills occupations that are in demand in our region that will provide a pathway out of poverty, will get them the right skills and competencies to meet the future of work, to take a look at automation. And so it first starts there, and that informs then our strategic initiatives. So one of them, and our large one, is the Center for a Competitive Workforce, which is a strategic partnership between the 19 community colleges as a part of the Los Angeles Orange County Regional Consortium, headed by Santa Monica College. We also have the Centers of Excellence, which is the research arm of the community colleges, the LA Chamber and LA EDC. And this partnership is to dig deeper on the analysis, to get the right labor market information that will then inform curriculum, to engage industry so that our community college system is thinking about the future of work and has the data so that as they design new courses, as they retool courses, that it's meeting that need. It also informs the work that we do under our industry councils. We focus on the economic development side of things, so the policy, the supply chain, but in partnership with the Center for a Competitive Workforce, we're digging deeper on the workforce needs. So across the county, we're engaging employers to understand their workforce needs in partnership with education and workforce. So whether it be a specific occupation, a competency, a lack of access, lack of knowledge, we're engaging around those conversations and then sharing that business intelligence with the workforce and education community and partnering with other organizations. So instead of holding 10 conversations about the same occupation throughout LA County, we can hold one. In addition, then we have our Workforce Development Council. We engage the entire workforce and we invite them to come to one meeting once a quarter to talk about the regional business intelligence, to share that out, to also then talk about regional initiatives that have an impact for us as a system, and to also then get feedback from them about what additional labor market information do you need so that you as a system can be more informed and more strategic in the initiatives that you are doing. And of course, these strategic initiatives then influence what we do. And so whether it's our business assistance team, California Smart Match, where we're matching up the suppliers with the OEMs in the aerospace industry, or talking about taking a look, how many certificates are we creating for one occupation? Are we oversaturating the market? Are we undersaturating it? And so it's a very exciting time where the research, the analysis, and the institutional feedback loop from employers is really driving it. And we're really proud that the Center for Competitive Workforce, which is funded through the Strong Workforce Program, is the largest regional project amongst the 19 colleges here, and it shows their commitment to be demand-driven. But in order to have a system like this, we also then need an interrelational infrastructure. So if we want our workforce system to be more demand-driven, industry-responsive, future-thinking, adaptive, then we also need a system that connects us in real time. Employers have needs in real time. Our ability as a system to respond to those needs in real time is the way that we can meet the needs of the future of work. And so in partnership with the Center for Competitive Workforce, we are working on, if you will, a regional CRM hub, a partner portal for the entire workforce and education system, where we will have information and the ability to share around these demand industries like aerospace, advanced transportation, biosciences, digital media and entertainment, and then are also in conversations with our workforce development boards to have these resource hubs about reentry, veterans. How many of us fund folks to find internship opportunities? When there's a new report about labor market information, how do you get access to it? How do you know? And it's also the ability for an employer to communicate a need and drop it into the system. So if I am an employer and I want to connect with veterans in the region, particular, let's say, my engineers, I can message within the system to the entire workforce and education community and say, I'm looking for a partner to help me access veteran talent in the region. Who can help me? And we can respond in real time. So if you're wondering, and this sounds all platitudinal and all really great, has it really happened? And I would say yes. And we don't have to look any further than where we already are. Santa Monica College has developed, under the leadership of Dr. Patricia Ramos, has worked with Amazon Web Services to develop a cloud computing program. And they had the forethought to think about articulation from the K through 12 school districts, and it's going to be replicated by all 19 community colleges in our region. So throughout the region, Students will have access to this talent, this certificate that's in demand, is thinking about the future of work, and they are also engaging then across the Workforce Development Board system to take the AeroFlex Pre-Apprenticeship to Apprenticeship Pathway program and see if it can work for the cloud computing world and perhaps develop CloudFlex. So it's very exciting to see all of our systems partner across. The LA Basin is leading the charge and being innovative to think about how we can regionally align to meet the needs of employers. And if there are any employers in the room who need any assistance, please feel free to contact us. But we hope that you will all continue to support and partner and know that the workforce and education system is really thinking about the future of work, not only in terms of curriculum and training, but also their infrastructure to support it. Thank you.
We have 3 people here who are going to talk about new and emerging companies and jobs, name recognizable company that we all know, but how things are changing there. And then the third mix is going to be intermediaries and what's the role that they play. So my first question to each of my panelists is, would you be kind enough to introduce yourselves and tell a little bit about you and your company to the audience?
Sure. My name's Elise Strebos. I am in charge of HR and talent or recruitment at a company called Velocity.
Which is spelled incorrectly on our program. Please correct the spelling when you want to find out about the company.
Yeah, or referring engineers to us. It's Evelocity, sorry, Z. So Velocity is a high-growth electric vehicle startup that is looking to influence urban mobility. We are developing, as our first means of influencing urban mobility, we have to have a product to do that, and our product is obviously a vehicle. The vehicle has done away with traditional combustion engine design because we don't have a combustion engine. And we show a fantastic slide to our investors that show, and whilst I can't show you the car today, as you can understand, I can explain sort of the intent behind it. And if you look at the phone in 1960 and the phone now, remarkably different. You look at the computer in 1960 and the computer now, remarkably different. You look at the Toyota Corolla in 1960 and the Toyota Corolla now, and they're kind of the same, right? So what are we doing about that? We're saying...
All the Corolla owners just ran out of the room.
It was my first car, that's why I use the example. I could use it with a number. But I think the auto industry is not only ripe for a change of design and an ability to influence and adapt to the next generation's needs, but it also has a really big possibility to impact urban mobility as a whole. The way that we are looking at designing our vehicle, or that we have designed our vehicle, is not only to get a passenger from A to B, the mother, the father, the child, 4 different cars to work. It is to impact delivery, rideshare, and lifestyle is what we're looking at to begin with. Whilst we are looking at autonomous driving, and we will have autonomous driving in our vehicles, it's not necessarily our core competency. But the way we are leveraging space in our car, because we don't have to make room for an engine, we don't have to have this specific layout that we have this kind of traditional horse cart model is how we explain it. Combustion engines have an engine, they have somewhere where they sit, and there's somewhere with baggage. When you have electric vehicles where all the batteries sit on the bottom, you don't need that anymore. So the use of space, the footprint, and autonomous driving will improve productivity. It will be able to influence urban mobility and usage. We will need a lot less cars, and we'll also be able to adapt mobility needs to the different businesses, industries, and individuals that operate in our urban cities, primarily through our grow-to-market strategy of a subscription model. Which I'll very quickly explain before I pass on, but instead of having a part where you have to own a vehicle, you'll be able to subscribe to one. So my husband and I could subscribe to our commuter vehicles during the week and then say, we don't need this Saturday and Sunday. I know at the moment one sits empty in our driveway. Instead, we just want an SUV or a lifestyle vehicle that we can both get in and go up the road to go to Yosemite or go surfing. And so that's another way we can change the world just from an individual perspective.
Please, thank you. That's
sorry,
great.
keep
No,
talking.
that's great.
Please go.
Okay.
Jeannie?
Hello, my name is Jeannie Wade. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources at Northrop Grumman's Aerospace Systems sector, which is located, headquartered right here in Redondo Beach. And I am so proud to work for Northrop Grumman. We have a fantastic, incredible legacy here in California. The company was founded right in Hawthorne, California, about 80 years ago. And today we employ about 28,000 people at 130 sites here in California. So we're very proud of that workforce. Worldwide, we have about 85,000 employees. Wow. And so we're a large aerospace company, one of the largest here in the state of California. We're very proud to be part of the state of California. Of course, we're a high technology. Our CEO, Wes Bush, will always say we're a technology company. And so we are always looking for engineering talent, technician talent. We have a wide range of talent that we're looking for because we need that talent. That's what makes us successful. It's not the products, it's not the systems, it's not the buildings, it's the people. And so we're very committed to hiring locally here in California, and also keeping veterans in the state as they are transitioning out of the military, and of course getting our early career talent from our local colleges and universities. And so we're very proud to be part of the California communities, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to talk about what we're doing.
Delighted to have you. Ryan?
Great, super, thank you. Thank you for having me. Ryan Craig, I'm Managing Director at University Ventures. We're the largest private equity firm at the intersection of education and employment. And specifically, we're very focused on helping to innovate and build new frictionless pathways from education to employment, primarily through intermediaries. And I have a new book out called A New You, Faster and Cheaper Alternatives to College, and I have 30 copies, I believe, outside on a table if you're interested in taking one today.
Thank you very much for that. Well, because of your generosity, I'm going to pose the first question to you. And every question is for everybody, so jump in.
Sure.
But my first question is, in our Working Nation video, we said the world of work is changing, jobs are changing. Could you, at your 50,000-foot level, across all the companies, looking at work in general, could you talk a little bit about what you see as the big changes in terms of the skills and competencies in work?
Well, if you simply go by what job descriptions tell us, what we know over the last decade is that technical and digital skills now outnumber all other skills, cognitive and non-cognitive skills combined, across virtually every industry you look at. And there's a good reason for that and a bad reason for that. The good reason is that, as you all know, the economy is digitized, and jobs that didn't involve digital technology a decade or two ago now do involve digital technology. The bad reason is that hiring has changed. Technology's also changed hiring. So every good job is posted online, and every online job posting generates 400, 500 applications. None of you are capable or interested in wading through that number of job descriptions, and so we all use applicant tracking systems, which are keyword-based filters. The natural inclination of hiring managers and HR managers is to try and make that net tighter. There are only so many ways to say critical thinking, problem solving, communication skills, but you can always add another piece of software to your job description. And so technical skills now have become sort of the primary top of the funnel screen for candidates. And a lot of what my new book is about is the fact that college graduates are coming at without the requisite technical skills. I spoke a couple of weeks ago to an audience of 250 community college presidents and administrators, and I asked them, how many of your schools are actually currently providing any training on Salesforce? And I'm sure Santa Monica College does, but they weren't in the audience. But the answer, literally no hands went up at all. And that's unfortunate because those graduates are then coming out and largely invisible to hiring managers who just don't see them. They don't get past the applicant tracking systems.
I don't know whether either of you want to. Yeah, so let me go back because both of you are involved directly in hiring in a new startup company, which people may not know the job titles, and in a very well-known and well-respected company in terms of brand. Tell us what skills and competencies you're looking for right now. What are you hiring for? And what are the hardest things to find?
Okay, so for us, it's definitely engineers. Especially systems engineers, mechanical engineers, aerospace engineers. The other area are technicians. So these would be folks who would work on our assembly lines, manufacturing. We have a lot of employees that do assembly and fabrication for us. That's another big skill area for us. Those are kind of our big areas. And I actually wish when we put a rec out, 400 people would apply, but the unemployment is so low, which is a great thing for the economy. Most of our candidates now are passive, and that makes it a little bit a lot more work to bring in candidates.
For us, our skills are old and new mixed together. And again, engineers, I know the unemployment rate for the type of engineers we have and the specialist designers is 1.9% in LA, which, like we've acknowledged, we have to tap into talent from everywhere. The challenge and opportunity we have is we're an entirely new industry. So even if we have people with the skills we require, they have to adapt that and bring new skills in, these digital skills into traditional skills. Mechanical engineers need to be able to use CAD. They need to know how ADAS, autonomous driving, is going to interact. They're going to have to start thinking about use cases for blockchain as we start to build our vehicle into an autonomous technology product as such. And so for us, it's finding those people with those skills, and really also we're just looking for the mindset, the ability to want to learn, the ability to educate themselves, to go out, to interact. We have a lot of people, we had to develop and wanted to develop an internship program very early on because they can start shadowing, they can start to see the vehicle from end to end, whereas at a traditional OEM, they may have just had to deal with kind of like a headlight. No one's dealing with just a headlight in our business. We're about 300 people now after 11 months, and we don't expect to go over 500. So everybody has to have this holistic perspective and the ability to bring these digital technical skills, CAD, CADIA, Polarian, all these software programs to make us operationalize faster.
So when we were chatting by ourselves, some interesting things came up. So the retention becomes a really big issue because what we heard in our conversation was that you're going to hit it soon, that the millennials stay about 1.3 years. So think about the retraining. So can we talk about, at your specific companies, what you're doing in terms of helping to keep that problem, it's at your competitors and not with you, that retention problem. And then Ryan, maybe you can add in what you're seeing broadly.
So I'll start. We have a few things that we do to help retain our employees. Sort of the foundation you have to have are competitive wage and benefits. That's the starting point. And then they have to have exciting work. They have to have really exciting work. They have to have work that challenges them, that excites them every day, and they have to have great leadership. Those are three kind of key, what we consider the base things that they have to have. But then we have an incredibly amazing culture. And that culture focuses on different needs for different employees. So let me just give you a few examples. Let's say that you want to just up your skills. You want to keep your skills up to date. We have thousands of online courses that are free to our employees. Let's say you want to go back for your bachelor's degree, master's degree. We have tuition assistance that helps employees do that. You want to spend more time with your coworkers. We have employee resource groups and recreation clubs where people who have like interests can spend more time together. You want to spend more time with your families. We have a work schedule where you get every other Friday off, so you get more time to spend with your families. So whatever stage of your life you happen to be in, whatever your special interest is, we have different programs that match those needs for our employees across their life cycle. So those are some of the things that we're doing to help retain our employees. Best culture, best leaders, and then, of course, best work. So those are the key things.
That's impressive. And your retention problem 11 months in?
Is not a problem, thank God. So we are 11 months in, where our turnover is obviously kind of less than 1%. But I kind of feel this, I've been researching and starting to put in place our retention plan, but it's something we've thought about from the beginning. As you can imagine, not only are we competing with amazing companies like this that have been around for years and have all this money and structure and actual revenue that they can invest back in their people, but also with our other competitors in the electric vehicle space, which are highly competitive, have a ton of money and a brand behind them. And we don't want to get into a bidding war because we will never win, and no one will ever win, and that will mean that the industry will not grow. So we have a very, very strong stock option plan ownership model with different vesting schedules that we are looking to leverage further in the upcoming year, working on that now. Leadership, huge thing. 98% of the people that have joined our business have joined for the team or the leaders. And so we have high accessibility to that, a lot of speaking about that, and we will look to embed that further, particularly hearing that's obviously successful for you and what people are interested in. And then again, kind of the cultural thing, unlimited paid time off sounds really cool when you're recruiting people to say, hey, unlimited paid time off, which is awesome, but it's also to say, we trust you. We trust you not only to own your work, and we expect you to own your work, but we trust you to manage your time. And so far, that seems to be working pretty well as well. We have a 4-month paid parental leave policy, 1 month for men, which I implemented pretty early on because I do want to make sure that we are supporting and attracting the women that we are able to attract. And looking at a number of other things to come on. Wellness is going to be a huge thing. This flexibility, the growth of the gig economy is another thing on how we invest in our employees now and then bring in outsourced people as well to make sure we can reinvest back in our team so they don't go jumping around the corner.
Can I add two more
Yes,
things?
please.
So 2 other things that came to mind, thank you, as you were talking. One of the key cornerstones to that 1 to 3 year for us is we hire a lot of interns and we pay them for their internships. And those interns, if I have a choice between hiring an intern that I've seen work for 8 or 12 weeks, they've seen our culture, they know they're a good fit, they want to come to work for us, versus someone maybe I spent 2 hours with, I'm always going to go with the intern. It really gives us a chance to both feel each other out. So that's an important part of our 0 to 3 retention, because they come in knowing about the company. The other thing we have is a program called Pathways, and so all of our early career folks who come into the company, for the first 3 years that they're there, they rotate every year to different positions. They can go to different functions. So let's say I'm a software engineer, but I'm interested in systems engineering. They can also go to different programs. They can work on the James Webb Space Telescope, and then they can work on some classified program. There's lots of options for them during that first 3 years, and they get to kind of feel out, because sometimes when you're at college, you think you know what you want to do, but then once you get involved in it, oh wait, that's not really what it is. So it gives them a lot of opportunity to explore those things in those first 3 years, and that's been very successful for us as well.
That's great.
So.
Ryan, what are you seeing across the board?
No, I mean, I just sort of trying to knit these themes together. I mean, certainly we agree it's worse in tech, but broadly speaking, the average candidate who's just completed a post-secondary program and goes to work churns, 50% will churn within 2 years.
Yeah.
So the combination of that plus the risk of bad hires has caused most employers in America to disinvest in early career hiring. They subscribe to what Peter Capelli calls the Home Depot theory of hiring, Peter Capelli from Wharton, where it's literally a job description is like a part description. And if you don't find that exact part, why would you buy the part? It's not going to fit, right? And so, you know, we're not in the business of trying to make that part fit, engage in early career training. And so that's one reason why there are almost 7 million unfilled jobs in America.
Yeah.
So, you know, employers have gotten to a place where, you know, they would much rather try a new hire before they buy that new hire, and that's, I think, speaks to your intern program. Problem is, we call that hiring friction. So how do you overcome that hiring friction? The sense that, you know, the risk of the unknown, the risk of the churn, the risk of the bad hire. Some employers like Northrop Grumman will have the wherewithal and the resources to build these programs themselves. Our view is that most employers won't, and that they'll need to rely on intermediaries who are able to provide a try before you buy emerging talent product. And those intermediaries take different forms. We can talk about that.
Yeah, I would like to stop there and talk about it, because many times for some of the people in the audience that come like from a background like mine, you think of intermediaries as people who support people trying to get a job. So the junior achievements, the JVSs, those folks in the world. But what you're talking about is slightly different. It's really almost a model that the older among us would remember as a staffing company model. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, literally, if you go full, I mean, so what LAEDC is doing is effectively acting as an intermediary.
That's right.
Of some kind, it's a more informational intermediary. We believe that you know, you follow that logic through to the logical conclusion, and you get something that looks like a staffing model, where the intermediary effectively is taking on the risk of sourcing, screening, and also training right? Taking away that last mile training. So we've called that term, we've coined the term last mile training to connote the training that is currently not being done for the most part in our post-secondary system, but could be done by intermediaries that are connected to employers, that have their finger on the pulse of what employers need and actually where their business depends on knowing what the talent needs of employers are. But it's the intermediary who ultimately hires the resource. And we have a number of examples where the intermediary is hiring the resource actually before they even start the training program, right at the start of the sourcing process. So the intermediary takes all that risk away from the candidate and away from the employer. And the talent is served up to the employer on a silver platter. And if the employer doesn't like the talent on day 2 or week 3, they send them back to the intermediary. And they can take different forms. One's a staffing model, one's a business services model. But we see these models emerging all over the place across different industries.
And it's a safety mechanism, just like the internship. You kind of try before you buy. And it's not with the full baggage of a registered apprenticeship program, which is much different. You know, you bring them on as an employee. So very interesting
Some of these are registered apprenticeships. So we call them outsourced apprenticeship programs. Our view is that there aren't too many employers in America. If you actually look at the large employers in America that operate registered apprenticeship programs that are outside of the traditional building and industrial trades, most of them are subsidiaries of German and Swiss companies where they've gotten the instruction from corporate, you need to have an apprenticeship program because they have an apprenticeship program back home.
And we like that.
So we think that the right locus for scaling apprenticeships outside of the traditional building and industrial trades in America is at the service provider level, where that service provider can have a commercial incentive to provide talent, either as a separate revenue generating product or as a way to amplify their value proposition to the enterprise.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
We touched on, and especially Jennie, you touched on this when you were talking about the pathway program that you have at Northrop. But I want to talk a little bit about incumbent workers, because incumbent workers often feel like they're at risk of being let go. Now, Elise, you're going to use your past experience before Velocity when you talk about this as well. But I mean, what are you doing? Again, besides pathways, what are you doing to make sure that incumbent workers are not only trained to do their current job better, but are really encouraged to look at jobs across the company where they may see a better future?
So for us, I think even at eVelocity, I can tell you this is vitally important for us. We look at our company, it's called Projective Velocity because we're all working on one project. So and instead of structured into a traditional hierarchy, we've structured into a series of interconnected teams, which is more popular nowadays, particularly with higher growth companies that need to be more agile and make decisions faster. What it also allows for is wonderful, amazing career pathing, development, growth, and accessibility to different parts of the industry. So instead of, say, your chassis and then department sitting here, and your battery and powertrain department sitting here, and them having 4 organizational tiers above them where they have to ask, go across, ask, and 3 weeks later a decision's made. We've structured it so that they're enabled to make decisions at different levels with certain points of escalation within guidelines. So this means that day to day, these 2 departments are working very closely together. They're working on projects together, and we are collaborating in a way where if you need to, I don't know, look at kind of the steering wheel, you'll need to look at the design department needs to be involved, the body structures department needs to be involved, the studio engineering does. And so they all work together and discuss and learn from each other. So it's more on the job at the moment, but we've structured it in a way so that that guy from studio engineering now knows so much about this from working with these guys, the transition into design or the transition into structures would be much easier. We also have an internship program, and they are mentored and grown. But the guys in there, I think next year we will be looking at more formal things, education, reinvestment. We do send a lot of people to a lot of different conferences. There are really cool ones out there where people learn a lot. CES is unbelievable. That's next year. The LA Auto Show's on at the moment. There's people doing cool things, and so long as we know about them, get them, and get people involved in them, they can learn that way too. But more formal things will need to come as we get bigger.
And what about age? I think I should bring that up. What about, so many of these programs, we talk about young people coming right out of college, but we know with a 63% labor market participation rate that there are a lot of veteran workers out there, not military, but seasoned workers out there who can't find their way. What's going on to get that talent back? We need that talent. What's going on to get them back into the workforce?
So we have a great program called I Return, and it's actually geared towards women who have left the workforce and been out maybe for 5 to 10 years, and they do an internship with us to make their way back into the corporate world, and we try to hire them right out of that program. So we have that program that we have internally. In addition, I talked about our tuition assistance, so we don't restrict what people study. If they want to go back to college, we do restrict that it must be a business topic. They can't study archaeology. That doesn't apply to our business. But there's a wide range of things that they can study. When we post a job, it's posted not only to external employees or external personnel, but our internal employees as well. So this year, just in my sector, we filled about 4,000 positions, and about 2,000 of them were filled with internal employees looking for their next opportunity or their next role. But I'll tell you a personal story that I think will hopefully make this point. So I started out 30-some years ago as an enlisted Marine, and a defense contractor took a chance on me and gave me an opportunity. So if they had not done that, I would not be here today. But let me just tell you a little bit about my career. I started out in quality assurance 30 years ago. And at Northrop Grumman, I've been in quality assurance, I've been a program director, I've been the head of talent acquisition, I've ran our service center, all of our payroll, all of our accounts payable and billings, and today I'm the head of human resources at our aerospace systems sector. If that's not the ability to change direction on your career, move up, I don't know what is. So our company's really great for that.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I just add that, I think anyone who looks at the problem recognizes that there are tens of millions of experienced Americans in the workforce who are out of position relative to the jobs of tomorrow. And that's before we even take into account the impact of AI and RPA over the next decade or so. One thing we feel strongly about, and I talk about in my book, this book that came out last year, Janesville, about the closing of the GM plant in Janesville, Wisconsin, where these auto workers who weren't successful earlier, for the most part, earlier in life in a tuition-based classroom environment, are sort of funneled back into the local community college and told that's their pathway to upskilling and retraining and a new career. And 2/3 of them don't make it out of that program. So one thing we feel strongly about is a tuition-based classroom model cannot be the only pathway. There are just too many frictions involved with it. And for many of them, life gets in the way. These programs take too long. So how can you reduce the frictions with models like apprenticeship models where you're hired from day one, where you're limiting or reducing or eliminating the uncertainty around the employment outcome, and where the environment looks less like a classroom and more like a workplace environment. So that's where we're focused.
No, it sounds great. So it naturally goes to this, not just because Tricia Ramos is in the room and other educators.
Tricia, come up, join the panel.
I thought about that. But I think partnerships is really a word that we hear all the time when Working Nation is looking for solutions. And we've come to think that there's really not a solution in this talent space that doesn't involve partnership. But I'd love to hear your take on your partnerships with K-12 schools, with post-secondary education, 2- and 4-year and graduate school, and also with these intermediaries that Ryan is bringing up, both the old definition of intermediary and the 21st century definition of intermediary. I'd love you to talk about that a little bit.
Didn't you want to talk about yours?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, well, our partnership model, I think, is, given we're only 11 months, it's not strong yet. Certainly we have
some people in the audience that will help you with card efforts.
Yeah, so, and it's something we do need to develop. It is, I think we haphazardly and very quickly and actually very successfully, luckily, put together an internship program that partnered with local universities, but not specifically, both here and internationally, actually. And then we obviously have been looking, with the City of Torrance locally about some of the things that they can offer, talking more with the LA EDC and the different partnerships and things we have there. But certainly I am of a firm belief that partnership models and this kind of try before you buy, it sounds so transactional, doesn't it? But methodology to getting the right people on board is really the way. And certainly we have partnerships with engineering services firms, for example, where the contract is written in the reverse way, where they actively are trying to stop you recruiting their people that have come in and worked for you and know the product and seen the growth of the company and the development process and the product. And that's a challenge because some of these people are awesome. We would love to hire them, and I understand the engineering services firm doesn't want to lose them, but if we can find a way to overcome that, I think that is a really, really great way to take what you do in an internship program to all organizational tiers and levels of experience and technical areas. I really think if we can do that, it's a huge benefit.
Jeannie, I know I can see you jumping off your chair,
Yes,
right?
I'm sure she's got a lot of partnerships.
We do have a lot of partnerships, and right now we partner with over 40 colleges, four-year colleges, and most or many of them are right here in Southern California. And it goes anywhere from recruiting to research that we do with them, all the way to philanthropic activities that we have with them. And we have found our best successes start when we start in middle school, where we can get more and more students interested in STEM areas, because that tends to be where we lose folks in their interest in especially science and math.
Wow.
And so we start with STEM programs there. We have some great programs at the high school level where high school students get to work on projects. They're mentored by our engineers, so they really get the excitement of I've designed something and built it. And all the way up through the colleges where we do, as I mentioned, research with the colleges and a lot of recruiting. Our partnerships with the community colleges are very important to us because we do have a need for a lot of technicians. We have a great program with Antelope Valley Community College where we developed a curriculum jointly with them for aircraft fabrication and assembly program that we have there. And we hire 90% of the students that come out of that program. They're for our site in Palmdale. So that's great because for us, those folks probably grew up locally. They're going to school locally. We're hiring them. We're keeping them local. We're trying to do the same thing here locally in this part of Southern California, especially with like El Camino College and Cerritos College. We're starting to build those partnerships as well. So I think we have a great program, and I think there's a lot more we'd like to do.
Well, and you hit such an important note. I mean, these colleges, 2- and 4-year, need industry to come in and help them rebuild the curriculum because these professors, they're brilliant, but they can't keep up with the pace of change in industry. And I think the more companies, small and large, go in and help them write it. And I know here with the 19, I don't like to speak for them because they can all speak for themselves, but the 19 community colleges here in Los Angeles County are incredibly open to that, and that's why they created this entity that goes across. I don't want to mention the name that shall not be mentioned again because she's going to throw something at me with Tricia. But I mean, that's the whole piece of what they're trying to do. Because why should a business have to go to 19 different community colleges? They go to one place now. So I hope you're successful.
Great.
Now, Ryan, tell me what you're seeing outside, not only in LA but outside the LA area in this.
No, absolutely.
Partnership
I mean, I think I'll
space.
just point out, first of all, that I don't think that what you just described typifies the majority of institutions or faculty in the higher education landscape, right? If you surveyed 100 random faculty members or 1 million faculty members, you're not going to get a majority who put up their hands and say, the reason I went into the academy is so that I could equip my students with the skills that employers are requiring for entry-level jobs. That's not why they do what they do. So they need help. They need help for sure in aligning what they do to the workforce and incentive to do so. These intermediaries that we're talking about, really the way to think of them, they're employers themselves because they take on the hiring risk. But what they're able to do is they're able to aggregate demand across hundreds or thousands of employers. And so, for example, we have a company, Reviture, that currently has a partnership with University of South Florida, where they're going to run 1,000 students through their on-campus last mile training program at USF next year. And they will do the hiring, and again, it's not for them. They'll do the hiring and they'll staff them out to dozens of large enterprises. So they act as that intermediary, right? This is a many-to-many problem, the education to employment problem, and really the question is what form the intermediary takes. But it doesn't have to be just with university or colleges. We have a company, Tectonic, which is a software development shop, which they partner with local workforce boards, and they source entirely from local workforce boards. So it's 40% underrepresented minority in software development, 30% women in software development. So it's a fantastic diversity that they're able to achieve. And I know Melissa Peak is here from Talent Path, which is a sort of an emerging intermediary in the IT space, and they're partnering with colleges and universities around the country as well.
And soon moving to, the reason she's here today is because they're moving to LA. So
That's
hopefully
right.
she'll
Yes.
get connected with lots of people here in the audience.
Yeah.
So I want to do a wrap-up question because I think, and I apologize to the audience, we did not build time in for audience questions, but everyone will be here and we'll deal with you on a one-to-one basis. But my apologies up front. Just run after them and hold them down. But I do want to wrap up with, we have such talent here on the stage. I would be remiss if I didn't say, what would your advice be to someone who is looking to get into your company, your sector, your line of work, regardless of age? What would your advice be?
What would my advice be? I think for student, regardless of age, it's really, I think, about if it's demonstration of something, what we look for. I think what we really look for is people who want to build things, people who show that they can take something and make it bigger, people who want to do that and can identify opportunities to do that, and people who don't like to be told necessarily what to do or put in a box, people who like to expand from that. So I know that's not a very sort of traditional answer, but this is what separates people who come in for interviews for us. Because if they have that willingness to learn, that drive, that ability to see opportunity, that business acumen about how the program works, they'll be able to learn on the job. If they don't have that, that's more of a problem. From a technical skills perspective, software, technical, all these things, all these industries that are brand new, anyone who can get involved and learn. I put myself on a coding course, which is already redundant, despite having done it a year ago. Any of these things or ideas, even just to get familiar with the industry, the thing or changes are also all very helpful to help understand things because they change every month.
No, that's perfect to hear. Jeannie?
Well, so for us, if you have a student that is currently in college, please ask them to keep their GPA up, and please encourage them to study engineering, science, or math.
I second that.
Because that's really what we're looking for right now. We hire about, I think this year we're going to hire about 2,000 students right out of college, and another 3,000 interns. And we do that pretty much every year, so lots and lots of opportunity there. As far as experienced hires, if you or someone you know is and someone who's experienced, we're not just looking for engineers. That's the toughest talent for us to find, but we're also looking for people who are experienced in finance, accounting, human resources, you name it, it runs the gamut of a large business. And so we're always looking for talent. If you know someone who's interested, see me after the program. We currently have about 3,000 positions open in my sector alone.
Wow.
Across our company. We have about 7,000 or 8,000 openings.
Wow. We have 86.
That's right. And certainly, especially cleared talent. Folks with clearances always welcome as well. So lots of opportunity at Northrop. I'm very excited to work there. It's a great company with a great mission. If you feel that mission, especially veterans, I think resonate with our mission. 25% of our hires are veterans in our sector. We love great talent, and so I would recommend that you look on our careers website because there's plenty of opportunity right now.
Terrific. Ryan?
Beyond the technical skills, which I wholeheartedly agree with, I would say that having actual paid employment experience is critical. We are at sort of an all-time low in terms of the percentage of teenagers who are engaging in paid work, and that's a function of the fact that our overwhelming focus on four-year college as the only pathway to success has led to an overwhelming focus on college readiness and the college application, in the sense that unpaid internships and travel study experiences do more to burnish your college application than actually engaging in paid work as a teenager. But the funny part is that once you actually get in front of employers at the end of the day, they want to see the soft skills that you've developed as part of those paid work experiences. I was on a panel a few weeks ago, and ironically, I got this question from an employer who owned a travel study business and said, I can't find candidates who have the soft skills. I'm like, look in the mirror. It's your program.
Please join me. I hope, first of all, that you agree that you know more now than you did before the panel. Please join me in thanking the panel. Thank you so much.